If this story has found you at the right moment, do not rush away. Somewhere inside your ordinary day, a quiet question may be waiting for you. It may not arrive as a voice in the sky or a spectacular miracle. It may arrive as a feeling you keep postponing, a pattern you keep noticing, or a small truth that refuses to disappear. Tonight, Spirit Guide Tales brings you a fictional story created for reflection, comfort, and courage. Listen with an open mind. Keep what helps you, and let the rest pass gently. Rowan had become very good at answering other people's questions. Friends asked for advice. Family asked for reassurance, and co-workers asked for one more favor. Yet when Rowan was alone, one question returned with remarkable patience. What would happen if life were not asking for perfection, but for honesty? The struggle was simple to describe and difficult to carry. Dismissing repeated patterns while facing a difficult decision. No one looking from the outside could see the full weight of it. That is often how a private turning point begins. Not with a collapse, but with a moment a person can no longer pretend that an old way is still working. One evening, while the world moved around Rowan, the first unusual detail appeared. 3 sparrows appearing at the same crossroads. It was easy to call it coincidence. In fact, Rowan did call it coincidence. A symbol is not an instruction, and a pattern is not proof. But the moment created a pause, and inside that pause came a memory of a promise once made. To stop abandoning the inner voice whenever it became inconvenient. The sign did not tell Rowan what to do. It simply made it impossible to keep moving without noticing. That night, sleep arrived in fragments. In the first dream, a familiar place looked different. The walls seemed to hold their breath, and the air carried a calm that sometimes appears just before dawn. There was no frightening figure, no demand, and no thunderous announcement. Instead, a presence stood at a respectful distance. It felt less like meeting a stranger, and more like recognizing someone who had been waiting without pressure. When the presence finally spoke, the words were plain. I will not choose for you. I will help you see what you already know. Rowan asked, then why do I feel so lost? The answer came slowly. Because you have been treating fear as a forecast. You have mistaken discomfort for danger and approval for truth. Your next step will not remove every uncertainty. It will show you that uncertainty can be carried. The presence then pointed toward a doorway, a path, or a small light, whatever the dream needed to reveal. Your lesson is present moment awareness. Do not turn that lesson into another performance. Practice it in one ordinary decision. At sunrise, the dream remained vivid, but the world offered no explanation. The phone still contained difficult messages. The unfinished task still waited. The old habit still called with its familiar voice. For a few minutes, the easiest choice seemed wiser. Then the words returned, one ordinary decision. Not a dramatic announcement. Not a promise to become a different person by evening. Just one action that agreed with the truth instead of protecting the fear. So Rowan began with something small and specific. The action was connected to dismissing repeated patterns while facing a difficult decision, but it was not reckless. Rowan wrote down what was known, what was assumed, and what needed to be checked. A trusted person was contacted. A boundary was spoken without insult. A necessary rest was taken. A task that had been avoided was divided into a first 10-minute step. This is where many spiritual stories become misunderstood. Guidance is not an escape from responsibility. It is the courage to meet responsibility without losing compassion for yourself. The first attempt did not feel magical. The voice of doubt arrived immediately. It listed everything that could go wrong and reminded the heart of every previous mistake. But another voice was present now, quieter and steadier. It did not argue with every fear. It asked a better question. Was the kindest, truthful action available right now? That question became a lantern. Whenever confusion grew loud, it brought attention back to the next safe step. Over the following days, more moments seemed meaningful. A conversation ended with exactly the sentence Rowan needed. A delay prevented an impulsive decision. A forgotten note revealed an ability that had been ignored. Still, Rowan learned not to turn every event into a secret code. The value was not in collecting omens. The value was in becoming present enough to notice choices. The sign had opened the door inward. Practice was what allowed transformation to walk through it. One afternoon, the old problem returned in its strongest form. The familiar option promised quick relief, even though it carried the same cost as before. Rowan felt the body tighten, the mind race, and the desire to ask someone else to decide. For a moment, the spirit guide seemed absent. Then Rowan understood the deeper lesson. A guide is not proven by constant signs. Sometimes guidance is the strength to remember what you learned when no sign is visible. Present moment awareness meant choosing with awareness, not waiting to feel fearless. The decision was made. It did not make everyone happy. It did not produce instant applause. It did, however, create a quiet space inside. In that space, grief could be felt without becoming identity. Anger could be acknowledged without becoming a command. Hope could return without needing a guarantee. The change was almost invisible from the outside, but to the person living it, the difference was enormous. The future no longer looked like a sentence handed down by circumstances. It looked like a conversation between values and actions. If you are listening while dismissing repeated patterns, while facing a difficult decision, let this moment belong to you. You do not have to copy Rohan's decision. Your life has its own facts, relationships, duties, and limits. Ask what can be verified. Ask who can support you. Ask whether the inner message makes you more grounded or more frightened. A healthy spiritual practice should leave room for consent, patience, evidence, and practical care. It should never pressure you to ignore danger, reject medical or emotional support, or surrender your judgment to a voice you cannot question. Perhaps your own sign has been less dramatic than 3 sparrows appearing at the same crossroads. Perhaps it has been a repeated wish to rest, an honest thought that returns during quiet moments, or a growing awareness that one pattern must change. You can write it down tonight. Beside it, write one action that is safe, kind, and measurable. Then write one action you will not take until you have more information. This simple practice separates intuition from impulse. It gives the soul room to speak and the mind room to check the map. In the weeks that followed, the guide appeared less often in dreams. At first, this disappointed the storyteller's heart. Then the reason became clear. The goal was never dependence on a mysterious presence. The goal was partnership with conscience, wisdom, community, and lived experience. The guide had not vanished. The guide had become a quality of attention, a pause before reaction, a question before assumption, and a willingness to tell the truth with tenderness. Months later, someone asked Rohan when everything had changed. Rohan could have named the dream, the sign, or the unusual evening. Instead, Rohan answered, "Nothing changed all at once. I changed the way I met the next moment." That answer carried the heart of present moment awareness. We often wait for a perfect signal because it would protect us from responsibility. Yet the most reliable message is frequently the one that invites us to become more awake, not more special, more compassionate, not more superior, more courageous, not more careless. When the story is over, sit quietly for a moment and ask yourself 3 gentle questions. What am I already aware of? What am I avoiding because it feels uncomfortable? What is one safe, honest action I can take before tomorrow ends? Do not demand a dramatic answer. A useful answer may be a conversation, a boundary, a rest, a journal page, or an appointment with someone qualified to support you. Spiritual reflection becomes meaningful when it returns us to responsible action, kindness, and a clearer relationship with reality. If this story brought a memory to the surface, treat that memory gently. You do not have to solve your entire life tonight. You do not have to interpret every dream, number, or coincidence. Let guidance be tested by its fruits. Does it make you more compassionate, more grounded, more truthful, and more willing to respect yourself and others? If it creates panic or demand that you abandon safety, pause and seek trusted human support. Wisdom does not need to frighten you into obedience. This is a quiet promise at the heart of Spirit Guide Tales. You are allowed to begin again without pretending that the past never happened. You can carry the lesson and release the weight. If this tale spoke to you, write one word in the comments that describes what you are choosing: peace, courage, healing, patience, or truth. Subscribe for more original spiritual stories, and share this one only with someone who would welcome it. Until the next tale, may your next step be small enough to take and brave enough to matter. Before you leave this tale, remember that curious beginners and skeptics can receive the same lesson in different ways. A beginner may need permission to slow down. A skeptic may need permission to test an idea before accepting it. A grieving person may need permission to take only what feels gentle. A practical person may need permission to call a friend, make a plan, or ask a professional for help. Spiritual language has value when it serves human dignity and does not replace it.